Hello friends, welcome to IGC. In this video, I'll discuss the basics of electronic devices and circuits. In short, it is EDC. The syllabus for EDC in the GATE exam will be like this. These many topics will be covered in this syllabus. So the importance of these topics can be easily understood from the previous year GATE question paper analysis. So let's see what is the pattern of GATE questions in the last 4 years. Here the important topics are semiconductor basics, carrier transport, PN junction diode, capacitor, BJT, MOS capacitor, solar cell, and IC fabrication. IC fabrication is not that much important in these days, so we can leave it also. But the remaining topics are very important from the GATE point of view. If we see in 2020, we have 6 questions total and 10 marks. 2 questions are for 1 marks and 4 questions were 2 marks. So total 10 marks we got in the last 2020. In 2019, if we see, we have 8 questions and 13 marks, and 2018 8 questions 12 marks. 2017's we have 2 sets. First set is having 12 marks and second set is having 10 mark questions. So from this analysis we can easily understand that we have at least 10 marks from this subject, and maximum it can go up to 12 to 13 marks in each year. So the subject is very simple. We need to understand its basics, its concept, and we can easily solve the questions in the GATE exam. And these are for sure we'll get at least 10 marks from the topic, from the subject in the GATE exam. So let's start the basics of electronic devices and circuits. So in this, first of all, I'll take the thermal voltage. It is nothing but the voltage equivalent to the temperature. It is represented by the Vt. At room temperature, which is T equal to 300 Kelvin, its value is 0.0256 volt, or it is nearly equal to 26 millivolt. We should remember this. Sometimes in the exam, they will not give its value. So at room temperature, we can use this value 26 millivolt. Absolute zero temperature, which is 0 Kelvin, we know its value will be 0 because Vt expression is kT upon Q. So Vt is directly proportional to the temperature, where K is Boltzmann constant and its value is 1.38 into 10 to the power minus 23 joule per Kelvin. Temperature will be in Kelvin and charge will be in Coulomb. So in short, we can write this expression as T upon 11,600 volt. We should remember this also. So this is very useful while solving the GATE questions. Sometimes 1 mark question or sometimes 2 mark questions. These things are useful. So let's move on. Now we will know how electric field behave in the semiconductor wire. Its other name is electric field intensity or field gradient. It can be expressed as minus dV by dx, the change in voltage to the change in length. That ratio, it is called electric field. One thing we should remember that electric field is always a constant throughout the semiconductor wire, as I will explain in the next slides. So here, if we see 2 diagrams we have, in one diagram one circuit is there, and in other diagram we have the graph of electric field with respect to the distance into the semiconductor. So suppose 1 volt voltage source we applied across the semiconductor bar, we can find out the electric field at different length of the semiconductor bar. Now in case 1, we have to find the electric field at x equal to 1 micrometer. So electric field, that is E1, because this semiconductor bar is of 1 micrometer length, so E1 will be total applied voltage to the total length of the semiconductor bar. That is E1, it is 10 to the power 6 volt per meter in case 1. In second case, we need to find the electric field at the mid of the semiconductor bar, which can be expressed as the voltage at the mid of the semiconductor bar to the length at the mid of the semiconductor bar, which is x2. So in this case, if we divide the semiconductor bar in two parts which are equal in length, same material is there, so same resistivity will be there for both the bar parts. So the resistance of two equal semiconductor bars will be same. So the applied voltage can be divided, and at the mid of the semiconductor bar we can find out by the voltage division rule. So the total voltage, if the total voltage applied is 1 volt, which is in the previous slide, it is given the total voltage 1 volt is applied to the semiconductor bar. So the voltage at the mid of the semiconductor bar will be the half of the voltage applied, because the resistance of both equal parts is same. So V2 will be 0.5 volt and X2 will be 0.5 micrometer from X equal to 0. So now E2, which is the electric field at the mid of the semiconductor, is equal to V2 divided by X2, and it is equal to 10 to the power 6 volt per meter. Now in third case, we need to find the electric field at X equal to 0 micrometer. In this case, electric field is not defined because some voltage, if it is there, divided by 0 length, it is undefined. So we cannot define the voltage, we cannot define the electric field at the X equal to 0 value. So from these three, we can conclude that E1 and E2 are equal, and which is equal to 10 to the power 6 volt per meter. So it can be proved that the electric field intensity is a constant throughout the semiconductor bar except at X equal to 0, which is undefined in this case. So now we have the question based on this concept. What is the question? This question came in 2010 and it was for 2 marks. So the question is the silicon sample with unit cross section area shown below is in thermal equilibrium. The following information is given: T equal to 300 Kelvin, electronic charge is 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 coulomb, thermal voltage is 26 millivolt, and electron mobility is 1350 centimeter square per volt second. And this diagram is given that 1 volt is applied across the semiconductor bar of length 1 micrometer, and D is given, that is 10 to the power 16 per centimeter cube. So here they are asking the magnitude of the electric field at X equal to 0.5 micrometer is. So in this case, if we don't know this concept, we'll simply apply the voltage applied 1 volt divided by the length. which is x equal to 0.5 micrometer. That is not the correct way. As I told you, the electric field intensity is a constant throughout the semiconductor bar. So whatever the electric field at x equal to 1 micrometer will be the same value at all other points on the semiconductor bar. So the electric field at any point in the semiconductor bar is equal to total applied voltage divided by total length of the bar. That is 1 by 1 micrometer. So in this case, we get 10 kilovolt per centimeter. So that is C option is the correct option here. So in this case, we can say C is the correct answer. So it is very simple and 2-mark question. Like this, we have questions in the GATE exam. So we'll move on another topic, that is band gap, or its other name is energy gap. It is very useful in the EDC subject. So many questions are based on this. So let's understand what is this. It is the difference between the lowest energy level of the conduction band to the highest energy level of the valence band. And it is inversely proportional to the temperature for the semiconductor and insulators. So from this, we can easily say Eg decreases with the temperature rises. So Eg expression for any semiconductor material is given as Eg at any temperature T is equal to Eg at T equal to 0 Kelvin minus beta naught into T in electron volt. Here beta naught is the material constant and unit is electron volt per Kelvin. Beta naught value for germanium, it is 2.2 into 10 to the power minus 4 electron volt per Kelvin, and beta naught for silicon is 3.6 into 10 to the power minus 4 electron volt per Kelvin. These values we should remember, and this expression is very important for the public sector exams, but in GATE exams also they can ask questions based on this. So we can find out energy gap at any temperature if the energy gap at 0 Kelvin is given to us. Now, for germanium and silicon, we can remember these values. At 0 Kelvin, energy gap for germanium is 0.785 electron volt, and for silicon it is 1.2 electron volt. At higher temperature, that is room temperature 300 Kelvin, its value decreases to 0.72 electron volt, and for silicon it is 1.1 electron volt. We have to remember all these values for the GATE exam, because in 2003 we have a question of 1 mark, which is the band gap of silicon at room temperature is, that is simply this value 1.1 electron volt, which is one option it is given, that is C option is the correct option. So like this they can ask questions. So we have to focus on the previous year questions. Based on that, we should study the subject. Let's move on. Energy gap in the metals. So now we'll understand the energy gap in metals, semiconductors, and insulators. So as the diagram says, at 0 Kelvin, the two bands are just touching each other, and we have free electrons. So in metals, Eg is 0 electron volt at 0 Kelvin. And one thing to remember is free electrons are available even at 0 Kelvin in metals. So as temperature increases, this overlapping of bands increases. Due to the overlapping of metal, due to the overlapping, the metal exhibits the positive temperature coefficient of resistance. Means as we increase the temperature, resistance increases. How it happens? Suppose we have a metal crystal. If we increase its temperature, the atoms of the crystal starts vibrating. The vibration of atoms increases as we increase the temperature. So the mean free path of the electron reduces because the probability of collision with the atoms increases. So the resistance increases, means more collisions occurs as compared to the lower temperature. So as temperature increases, the collision number of collisions increases, so resistance increases. And we know the metallic bonds are found in metals. In metals, free electron concentration is independent of temperature. This we should remember. If we increase the temperature, more covalent, more metallic bonds are broken, more charge carriers are generated, but in the same rate, the recombination takes place. So the free electron concentration is almost independent of temperature in metals. So now we'll understand the energy gap in semiconductors. It is little different from metals. Its value is very small, which is nearly equal to 1 electron volt. And in this case, at 0 Kelvin, there is no free electron available in the conduction band. So the conductivity of semiconductor at 0 Kelvin is 0. All semiconductor will behave as a insulator at 0 Kelvin because no free electrons are available. Free charge carriers are available in conduction band and valence band at 300 Kelvin, means the electrons, or we can say free electrons, are available in conduction band and free holes are available in valence band, and they are responsible for the conduction of the material. So conductivity of the semiconductor increases with the temperature. Covalent bonds are found in semiconductors. So why conductivity increases with semiconductor? We will understand this later also, how it is changing with temperature. That we can easily understand with different expressions in the coming slides. Okay, so now the energy gap in insulators. It is very large, which is 5 electron volt to 15 electron volt. That is why all insulators are very bad conductor of current under normal working temperature. And ionic bonds are found in insulators. So here we can see the energy gap between valence band and conduction band is very large. It means we need the large amount of energy to break a ionic bond and make the electron free for the conduction. That is why these are very bad conductor of insulin current. So now another topic is leakage current. It is very important topic. Its other name is reverse saturation current, or we can say it is thermally generated current. And other very important name is minority carrier current. So the current which is due to the minority carriers, that is the leakage current. So in devices also, semiconductor devices also, we have leakage current, and it is mainly present in the reverse biasing of the device. We'll understand this later, how it is present in the reverse biasing of the device. But the point related to leakage current we'll understand here. The one most important point is it is very sensitive to the temperature, and other thing is it is independent of the applied voltage. Other point is it becomes double for every 10-degree rise in temperature. So these are the very important points we should remember. For better performance of the device, I naught must be smaller. And other is it increases about 7% of its maximum value with 1 degree rise in temperature. So if we talk about the semiconductor material like germanium and silicon, we have leakage current in nanoamperes in silicon and in microamperes in germanium. So silicon is having lesser germanium is having more current as compared to the less silicon. So here I already mentioned that smaller the value of I naught, better the device is. So first of all, we should remember that in germanium it is in microampere, in silicon it is in nanoampere. So silicon is the better device as compared to the germanium. And some other reasons are also there for the silicon material to choose over germanium. And based on this, we can say silicon is more suitable for high temperature applications because it has smaller leakage current. Now, let's see the leakage current, how it varies with temperature. That is I naught at T2 is equal to I naught at T1 into 2 to the power T2 minus T1 divided by 10. From this expression, we can prove this statement, which is becomes double for every 10-degree rise in temperature. Here T2 is greater than T1. So now we have problem based on this leakage current. It is very simple. The leakage current in germanium is 5 microampere at 10 degrees centigrade. Find its value at 25 degrees centigrade. Simple. T1 is 10 degrees centigrade, T2 is 25 degrees centigrade. So we can find out its value. It is coming 14.14 microampere, which I have given here. A diode, the other question is, a diode has a leakage current of 10 microampere at certain temperature. Find its value if the temperature is increased by 25 degrees centigrade. So here the difference of the temperature T2 minus T1 is given to us, that is 25 degrees centigrade. So in the same way we can calculate its value, and in this case the value will be around 56 microampere. We can find out. So it is your homework, you can solve it at home. Next we'll come to the another topic, which is intrinsic semiconductor or pure semiconductor. So I'll discuss some other semiconductors also, which are extrinsic semiconductor or like N-type or P-type semiconductor in other classes. In this class, only I have taken intrinsic semiconductor, which is pure semiconductor. So the semiconductor which is having only single type of atoms, it means there is no impurity atoms present. So intrinsic semiconductors, other name is non-degenerative semiconductors. In this type of semiconductors, the covalent bond means the sharing of electrons with the neighboring atoms. That is called covalent bond. In intrinsic semiconductor at 0 Kelvin, it behaves as a perfect insulator, which I already told you that semiconductors behave as a perfect insulator at 0 Kelvin because there is no free electron available. At 0 Kelvin, all electrons are in perfect covalent bonding. And in semiconductor, free electron is a conduction electron. And the definition of hole is also given here. It is the deficiency of electron in a broken covalent bond. So all the points related to intrinsic semiconductor I have written one by one so that you can remember. Concentration of free electrons and holes is same in intrinsic semiconductor. It means N equal to P equal to Ni. Ni is the concentration of charge carriers in pure semiconductor. So here now concentration of intrinsic semiconductor expression we will get in the next slide, but in this we can analyze its crystal structure. Suppose we'll say it is germanium or it is a silicon crystal. In silicon crystal, each atom is having 4 outermost orbit electrons, which are used in sharing with other atoms or which are used in bonding with other atoms. So each silicon atom is having 4 electrons which are used in covalent bonding. So this structure says that all electrons are used in covalent bonding. Suppose any bond is broken and one electron, it becomes free electron if it is coming out. So one vacancy created here, that vacancy is called hole, which is represented by this here. So this is the crystal structure of silicon, or it is the same for germanium also, because germanium is also having 4 outermost electrons, outermost orbit electrons. Now, in terms of energy bands, we can understand this. At 0 Kelvin, there is no electron in conduction band and there is no hole in valence band. And Eg is the band gap between these two. So at 0 Kelvin, it acts as a perfect insulator. But as we increase the temperature, some electrons will get energy and they jump to the conduction band and they becomes the free electron. In the same ratio, the holes are created in the valence band. So both electron and holes, they contribute the current in the semiconductor. So we can see here one electron and hole pair created on broken of one covalent bond. It is explained in this already. So now the process of ionization. What is this? The generation of electron and hole pair is known as ionization process. In this, the electron and holes always move in opposite direction, but they contribute current in the same direction. We should remember this concept. Now, in this figure, I'll explain how it is. Suppose the electron which is moving from left to right, it contribute the current from right to left, that is In. And suppose we have one hole which is moving from right to left, it contribute the current from right to left. So the total current I, which is In plus Ip, and which is the sum of these two currents from right to left, that is shown here with the big arrow. So it is the sum of the two currents, In and Ip. Here In is the current due to electron and Ip is the current due to hole. So here we can say hole and electron and holes, they are moving in opposite direction, but they contribute current in the same direction. And one more thing also, In is always greater than Ip. Why? Because the mobility of electron is greater as compared to the hole. That concept we'll understand in the mobility topic. So let's go further. An intrinsic semiconductor, the intrinsic carrier concentration, which is given by this expression. The derivation of this expression is not important, but the expression is very, very important, because we got many times questions based on this expression, and those were 2 mark questions, sometimes 1 mark, sometimes 2 marks. In the GATE exam, they are directly asking questions based on this expression. The concentration of electron or hole in pure semiconductor is given by Ni. And in this expression, Ni square is equal to A naught T to the power 3 e to the power minus Eg naught divided by K bar T. Here Ni is the concentration of intrinsic electron or hole in intrinsic semiconductor. A naught is the material constant. T is the temperature in Kelvin. Eg naught is the band gap at 0 Kelvin, which is in electron volt. So if Eg naught is in electron volt, then K or T should also be in electron volt. That is why I have written here K bar. It is not K. K bar means its value is in electron volt per Kelvin. So its value is around 8.56 into 10 to the power minus 5. So this is in electron volt per Kelvin. Almost this value will get. So remember, K bar is different from that K here. Both are Boltzmann constant. But there it was in joule per Kelvin, but here it is in electron volt per Kelvin. Note, as compared to the silicon, germanium has larger value of Ni. Ni is equal to 2.5 into 10 to the power 13 atoms per centimeter cube for germanium, and for silicon it is 1.5 into 10 to the power 10 atoms per centimeter cube. Why it is so? Because for germanium, Eg naught is lesser. If Eg naught is lesser, so Ni will be more as compared to the silicon. That is why its value is more as compared to the silicon. So we can understand this from this expression. Now, intrinsic conductivity. We know the conductivity is equal to the product of carrier concentration and charge on the carrier and the mobility of the carrier. But in intrinsic semiconductor, we have electron and holes. And in intrinsic semiconductor, electron and holes are equal, and which is equal to Ni. So concentration is Ni for electron and for hole. So the expression for sigma I is concentration, that is Ni, into charge into mobility of electron, plus the concentration of hole into charge into mobility of hole. So sum of these two. That is why this expression says sigma I is equal to Ni into Q into mu n plus mu p. This is mole per centimeter. Sigma I increases with T, increases as a non-linear variation, because Ni varies with temperature non-linearly, and sigma I is directly proportional to Ni. So sigma I varies with temperature as a non-linear variation. So from this, we can easily understand that sigma I, it is non-linear with the temperature. Now, intrinsic resistivity, it is the reciprocal of conductivity, and unit is in ohm centimeter. Calculate sigma I, rho I of the germanium and silicon at room temperature. For germanium, sigma I is equal to 0.0224 mho per centimeter, and rho I is 44.6 ohm centimeter. All these values you put in this expression, you will get. So for silicon, you need to calculate at your home. If any doubt comes, you can ask me. In the next class, I can explain all these things if any doubt comes. Now, the other thing is the disadvantage of these intrinsic semiconductor. We know the intrinsic semiconductors are having very less number of free charge carriers. That is why the conductivity is very less. And the only device which is fabricated with intrinsic semiconductor is pin diode, which is useful in optical fiber communication. So these 2 points are there. Based on this, we can say we have 2 disadvantages. So now come to the next topic, that is doping process. It is nothing but the adding of impurity to the pure semiconductor. If we add impurity to the pure semiconductor, the free charge carriers are increases in the semiconductor. That is why the conductivity increases. So doping is nothing but the process in which we increase the concentration of free charge carriers and we increase the conductivity. So now type of impurity we have here: third group impurity and fifth group impurity. Third group, its other name is trivalent, or in our EDC we say acceptor, and fifth group it is pentavalent, or it is donor. Acceptor because it has deficiency of electron, donor because it has excess electrons. So material for acceptor, that is boron, aluminium, gallium and indium, and they make p-type semiconductors. And material for donor, that is phosphorus, arsenic, antimony and bismuth, and they make n-type semiconductor. So all these n-type and p-type semiconductor we will discuss in detail later in other classes. Here only I have taken just basics. Now the doping standards, different doping standards we have, that is moderate doping, lightly doped and heavily doped semiconductors. So in moderate doping, we have the ratio is 1 is to 10 to the power 6 to 10 to the power 8, and it is represented by P or N based on the doping, or small p or n. And lightly doped, it is in the ratio of 1 is to 10 to the power 11, which is represented by P minus or N minus, or small p minus or small n minus. And in heavily doped, it is 1 is to 10 to the power 3. Here p plus, n plus, or p plus, or small n plus. All these are representations of this. You should remember these. And other points to remember are, with 1 is to 10 to the power 8 doping, we can increase the conductivity by 12 times. And 1 is to 10 to the power 7 doping, we can increase the conductivity by 120 times. We can understand this in the some examples later. So everything will be clear to you in the coming classes. Okay, so let's move on. The question based on previous slides are these. Here, which of the following is true? They are asking. Silicon wafer heavily doped with boron is a P plus substrate. This question came in GATE 2008 1 mark question. Silicon, it is intrinsic semiconductor. If it is doped with boron, which is acceptor. If it is acceptor and it is heavily doped, silicon is heavily doped with boron, acceptor atom, then it will make P plus definitely. So A is the correct answer. In other options, boron which is lightly doped, that should be P minus, it should not P plus. And in C option, silicon wafer heavily doped with arsenic. Arsenic, it is pentavalent, or we can say it is donor. If it is a donor, so it will create a p-type, n-type semiconductor. So if it is heavily doped, it will be n plus, which is the wrong option. A silicon wafer lightly doped with arsenic is a p plus substrate. Arsenic, which is donor or pentavalent, which always make a n-type semiconductor. If it is n plus, n minus, or n type, so that is also wrong option. So correct option is A. So here we can say A is the correct answer. In other question is, n-type silicon is obtained by doping silicon with germanium. It is intrinsic semiconductor, so we cannot make any n-type or p-type with this germanium. In aluminium, which is acceptor impurity, boron is acceptor impurity, they make p-type only. Phosphorus, that make n-type, it is donor impurity. So that is why the option is D is the correct option. So we can answer these questions easily, and which came in the GATE exams earlier. So like this only questions will come in the exam. So the basic concept only we need to understand, and we can solve questions. Now we'll come to the impurity profile. Impurity profile, first of all, we should know that impurity profile means adding impurity atoms to the pure semiconductor. That is the doping process. But impurity profile, that impurity atoms we are adding, it means we are creating some potential gradient which produces some electric field. It means indirectly we are introducing the electric field into the semiconductor. In other point, in a semiconductor or in a doped semiconductor, the current is carried by both drift and diffusion. This concept we will understand later, what is drift and what is diffusion. So in coming classes, I'll explain what is drift and diffusion in detail. Profile concentration is maximum at the point where impurities are added and gradually diminishes in semiconductor, into the semiconductor. It is like this. If the profile it is added here, then it will be maximum at this place, and it is gradually decreasing like this into the semiconductor. Like this, it is gradually decreasing. At some point, it will be zero. So it is like this. Doped semiconductor is also called extrinsic semiconductor or degenerative semiconductor. These are the other names of doped semiconductor. Okay. So now move on. We have some questions. It is very important question which came in 2017 set 1. It is 1 mark question. Let's understand this. A bar of gallium arsenide is doped with the silicon such that the silicon atoms occupy the gallium and arsenic sites in the gallium arsenide crystal. Which one of the following statement is true? They are asking true statement. So the silicon which is impure, which is pure semiconductor or intrinsic semiconductor, it has 4 valence electrons in the outermost orbit. It acts as a p-type semiconductor. It acts as a p-type semiconductor, p-type dopant in arsenic site and n-type dopant in gallium site. Okay, in arsenic site, arsenic is a pentavalent. It has 5 electrons or 5 valence electrons in the outermost orbit. If we replace this arsenic with the silicon, we have only 4 valence electrons. It means we have 1 electron deficiency. If 1 electron deficiency if we found here, it means it is p-type because one hole created, then it is p-type. And if a gallium site is replaced by silicon atom, so gallium is having 3 valence electrons in its outermost orbit. If we replace it by silicon, which is having 4 valence electron, so we have 1 extra electron in this. That is the free electron. We have 1 extra electron, that is the free electron. So it is a type of donor impurity. It acts as a donor impurity. So it will make n-type semiconductor. It means the A option is the correct option. In other option, suppose in B, silicon atom acts as n-type dopant in arsenic site. In arsenic, which is having 5 valence electrons, if we add silicon, which is having 4 valence electron, one deficiency is created. That deficiency is whole, so that cannot be n-type. That can be only p-type. So that is wrong option, this one. Now silicon atom acts as a p-type dopant in arsenic. This is already I've told you, but as well as gallium sites, no. For gallium site it is n-type. This is also wrong. If one is correct, then other will be wrong definitely. Silicon atom acts as a n-type dopant in arsenic as well as in gallium. Wrong. Both are wrong. So A option is the correct option. Right? So we can write A. This question came in GATE 2017 set 1. So now we'll come to the next question, next topic, that is mass action law. Mass action law is mainly used to calculate the minority carrier concentration in the semiconductor, whether it is intrinsic or it is extrinsic. In intrinsic, we can find out minority carrier concentration. Other concentration will be given and we can calculate. And the one more thing, for this mass action law, the applicable condition is thermal equilibrium. So the material should be in thermal equilibrium, then only this law is applicable. So minority carrier concentration in p-type semiconductor will be electron, and that is equal to Ni square divided by P, which is shown in this expression. In n-type semiconductor, the minority carrier is whole, and whole concentration will be equal to Ni square divided by N. So the statement for mass action law is the product of electron and holes is always a constant and is equal to the square of the intrinsic carrier concentration under thermal equilibrium. Remember, this is applicable only in thermal equilibrium. So here, minority carrier concentration is equal to Ni square divided by majority carrier concentration. In p-type semiconductor, P is the majority carrier concentration. That is why minority carrier concentration is N here. So minority carrier concentration is inversely proportional to the majority carrier concentration. Now majority carrier concentration is directly depending on the doping concentration, because when we increase the doping, majority carriers are increases. Majority carriers are increased. So majority carrier concentration is directly depending on doping concentration. So from this, we can say the minority carrier concentration is inversely proportional to the doping concentration. This we should remember. This is here. What? In inversely proportional. Not able to write here. Inversely proportional. It is. Okay. So these things we should remember at all time. How it varies. In 1 mark, they ask questions in the GATE exam also. Let's have one question. The question is a N-type sample, semiconductor sample. It is germanium, it is silicon, doped with some donor impurity. So it can be anything. Has electron density N equal to 6.25 into 10 to the power 18 atoms per centimeter cube at 300 Kelvin. If the intrinsic concentration of the sample is Ni, which is equal to 2.5 into 10 to the power 13 atoms per centimeter cube, then the whole concentration is 10 to the power x atoms per centimeter cube. The value of x is, they're asking simple thing, value of x. It is numerically answered question. So minority carrier, here they are asking the whole concentration in N type. It is minority carrier concentration they are asking. That is equal to Ni square upon majority carrier concentration. Ni is given, majority carrier concentration is given. So its square will be 6.25 into 10 to the power 26 divided by 6.25 into 10 to the power 18. So we'll get 10 to the power 18 atoms per centimeter cube. So here the x value will be 8. Okay. Now in this, the same question, they can ask some other questions also. They can ask what type of intrinsic material is used in this. Based on this Ni, we can say it is a germanium. Based on this, we can say it is a germanium, because Ni is 2.5 into 10 to the power 13 atoms per centimeter cube. They can also ask what type of doping material is used here. It can be pentavalent, any pentavalent. It is phosphorus, it is arsenic, antimony, bismuth, anyone they can use here. So these things also they can ask. Like this, we have some questions, we have some theory. So in the next class, I'll explain remaining topics. Thank you for watching the video. Thanks.